Hey everyone, it's John again. Welcome to another episode of Itchy Mysteries. Thank you so much for hanging out with me a bit today. Today we're going to look into what Netflix considers a true crime documentary, but I'm not sure I really agree with that. It is one of their latest offerings. It was just released on the platform here in the US. It is called Casting JonBenet. Now, before I get started with the review, when I first started doing Brain Scratch, I got a lot of requests for covering that case, and I have decided not to date. There is just so much coverage about that case that I didn't feel like I would be able to get all the footwork done and then to come out with an episode that I think would help in any way. Basically, I feel like I would just be retreading the same theories and information that have been retreaded time and time again by numerous sources. And there's something inside of me that just struggles a bit with certain cases in terms of feeling like I don't want to be seen as capitalizing on those stories in any particular way. And I can tell you, I look at my other people that do what I do on YouTube, and they put up a JonBenet video and they get hundreds of thousands of views on it. I know that it would certainly be a popular topic to cover, but I don't do things just for that reason. I don't do things specifically in the effort of, getting a bunch of views or making ad revenue or things like that. I really have to feel like I'm bringing something to that conversation. And that is probably my biggest knock against casting JonBenet, and I actually have a few pretty serious knocks against this. Know that if you look into reviews on this, you're going to see a lot of people seem to really like it, and a smaller group seem to really, really dislike it. And unfortunately, I think I'm closer to that smaller group, but I'm still kind of somewhere in the middle with some of it. Let me explain to you why. This was directed by a woman named Kitty Green. It is her third feature, and she has actually used this format before. She has another film called Casting Oksana Bayul. And the thing about this format is she's essentially acting like she's casting a production and then looking for actors, and then she's kind of getting the insight from the actors about what they think of the reality of the case that she's reviewing. Now, for Oksana Bayul, there's no real tragedy in that story that I can recall. Using that type of format and expecting it to be successful when your core story is a disturbing tragedy of the murder of a very young girl, for me personally, it was very jarring and it didn't really work all that great. I have to say, I actually bailed on this movie about 20 minutes in, and then I forced myself to go back and watch the rest of it. I'm kind of glad that I did, because there's a little bit of a silver lining towards the end, but it still feels accidental. It doesn't feel like any of this was planned out. My biggest gripe with this movie, first of all, is you will learn absolutely nothing. It is, the information is given to you from people that are not experts. And it's weird because I think this format is trying to be sold in a manner of, hey, what do regular people think about this case? We're just going to make a movie about what regular people think. But that's not exactly what this movie is. They're using actors, which is a very specific type of person, a person that admittedly can be very sympathetic or empathetic, but also is attention-seeking typically in their own right. That's why they want to be a part of productions. They want to be seen. They want to be heard. They want to get on stage. I know this. I understand it. So using this format to try to get the common person's version of this story isn't necessarily what you actually get here. You get an actor's perspective on this story. And they are all actors that are local to the home of the Ramseys in this case, which doesn't, once again, necessarily add anything. It doesn't make them any more experts than, say, if you were interviewing a bunch of people on web sleuths, at least they would be steeped in the information and know a bit about the case that they're talking about. Here you get people that might have some casual acquaintance to the Ramsey family. Most of them don't. I think there's literally only 2 people in this whole film that have any type of connection to the actual Ramsey family, and even those connections are extremely thin and don't amount to anything in terms of information that would give you some type of different perspective on this case. So what does this film do? First of all, do you guys know those Christopher Guest movies? Have you ever seen Waiting for Guffman or Best in Show or even the old Spinal Tap movies? There's something at the beginning of this film where they are mimicking that type of style. It feels improvisational and it feels like they're literally going for jokes. There are things in this film that, quite frankly, if this was a piece I was directing, they would have never made it to the screen. The jokes are completely out of place. There is one particular series where it is extremely sexual in nature. It's a police officer talking about sex classes that he teaches and then talking about sadomasochistic fetishes that he has. How the hell does that wind up in a film about a little girl's murder? Just for jokes? Just for laughs? I do not get it. I do not get it. And unfortunately, the first half of this movie is really struggling between that format. It literally feels like they're trying to edit a comedy using this information of these actors retelling the story of this little girl's murder and what they thought about it. It's kind of terrible. I got to be honest with you guys. I hated it. Okay? The first half of this film, I literally think is garbage. There is nothing to it. It is not helpful in any way whatsoever. Now, what happens in the second half is I believe the director accidentally stumbles into something. I don't think she anticipated this. There are a series of stories being told by the actors about personal experiences of theirs. And at this point, it starts to feel a bit more human. The beginning of this film has no tact whatsoever. Then the second half of this film kind of drifts into a sensibility that I was able to appreciate somewhat, but I still felt like didn't need to be clubbed to the JonBenet story. If they would have not had it be about JonBenet, this could have been an excellent piece about actors, about how wacky they can be, all the strange things they do, the strange things they think, but then a deeper look into what motivates them to become actors, why they're seeking approval from audiences, those deep, dark stories that sometimes jar people to their core and they're looking to make up for the rest of their life. Sounds pretty interesting to me. I don't know about you guys, but the way I just spelled it, if that was an elevator pitch, I'd say, yeah, make that movie. That sounds really cool. Like I said, in this film, it feels like a side effect that was unintended by the director. And when it's just clubbed to the story of JonBenet, it still doesn't quite work. There's one particular segment where one of the actors is talking about the fact that he's struggling with doing this project. His friends are warning him, hey, is this really something you want to do? He's questioning it himself. And I found it so interesting that the director, found this footage of this guy, thought it was interesting enough to include in the movie, but you feel like the sensibility of the director, even though she thinks that information is important enough for you to hear, like she doesn't consider it herself. It really seems like this big, ugly blind spot in her scope of what this movie is supposed to be, and it's really unfortunate because, like I said, there's two different ideas going on here. They're warring with each other. They don't work together very well. And in the end, what you wind up with is a bunch of information. Some of it is fact. Some of it is rumor. You can't tell which is which. No one is really trying to clean up that mess in terms of understanding. Quite honestly, that information I wouldn't even include in a brain scratch. I mean, it's literally people's thoughts and just them talking, even though they have no expertise. And quite honestly, some of them you feel like they don't even know the case all that well. So I really struggled, guys, getting through it. But like I said, a lot of people seem to appreciate it. For me, maybe this has to do with the work that I do. I think because I'm looking into these cases so often, I mean, for every half hour that you guys see on a Searchlight or however long the Brain Scratch episodes go, there's at least one day, if not numerous days of research that goes into that, where I'm really steeping myself into that story and feeling empathy while I'm doing that. I mean, there is a very humane feeling. I want to understand what people are going through when I'm reviewing that information and then share that with you guys. I mean, in a way, I'm kind of one of those actors myself. I'm doing the research. I'm trying to understand how people feel. In some cases, I get to talk to the people, so that really changes my perspective on it. But every single time, I'm trying to touch a very empathetic place to really, if nothing else, to let those families know that I'm feeling for them, that we're trying to understand these mysteries and we all feel for them. And this film, particularly the first half, you literally, I literally kept having flashes in my mind, like every few minutes. Wait, this is a real occurrence. This is a case of a girl that was murdered in her home. What the hell is this movie doing? What is this movie doing? Why is there another bit trying to get us to laugh? Why is there another bit trying to get us to laugh? This is about a murder. This is about a murder. Why doesn't the director realize this? Quite honestly, by the end of the film, I felt like this director was extremely insensitive and probably someone that I don't look forward to seeing their work again. That's quite honestly how I felt about it. This is where I turn it over to you. What do you guys think? Have you seen it? Tell me what you think about it in the comments below. Am I being too sensitive? Is John hypersensitive here? I think that's part of what you guys appreciate about me, is that I have empathy for the things I review, and when I see a piece of art like this that just completely ignores that, it kind of insults me a bit. So admittedly, I have strong feelings in this that might be giving me a blind spot to what's going on. Am I taking this all too seriously? I don't know how you can not take this seriously. This is tragic and dark and has never been solved, and it looks like there's a very good chance it won't be solved unless there's some type of deathbed confession or something along those lines. So I don't know. But in any case, it is there. I guess I have to rate it now. I can tell you IMDB, it's not getting the best. I think it's like at a 6-7. Metacritic has it somewhere closer to an 8. I've read a couple of other reviews on it. I can't believe there just seems to be a lot of Hollywood fluff going on around this film. Some people think it is like the best thing to have ever happened. I don't get it. I don't get that point of view, not by a long shot. Some people think it's a revelation that, oh, it's not trying to tell you the outcome or to give you a firm conclusion. Yeah, it actually kind of is. Not one firm conclusion. It's trying to give you all the potential outcomes, but not really supporting any of them in particular over the others, all the way to child trafficking, which these are common theories we hear in these cases time and time again. I don't know. But whatever the next casting movie is, I'm pretty sure I'm going to skip it. Anyway, that's my rant for today. Not very often that this happens. Oh, look, and I still avoided scoring it. Okay, what am I going to give it? I will give it a 3 out of 10. And I only give it a 3 because of the second half of the film, that kind of accidental effect that I think that happened, that if I look at that as its own film and I detach it completely from having anything to do with JonBenet, I can appreciate. Outside of that, they do have some scenes where they use these actors and they're trying to shoot them in these scenes where they're acting like the characters that they're being cast for. It interested me that those scenes were kind of attracting me in a weird way. Like, hey, I'd like to watch like a pretty, high production television movie done on this topic. Maybe get some actors, maybe some B-level actors or some actors that aren't quite as popular as they used to be. Kind of like they did with the OJ trial thing. I would probably like to see a version of that. So it's interesting. This movie kind of teases you for that, which you never really get. Teases you into theories which you can't make any sense out of and go all over the place wildly. And it hits you right from the start with a comedic approach to the JonBenet story that leaves me baffled. Have I said that enough yet? This is like the longest review ever. Take care, everyone. I will catch you back here on the Lord and Arch channel.